Welcome to the meeting room at Global TV Talk Show, a broadcast service of globalbusinessnews.net.
This episode from the meeting room of Global TV Talk Show is brought to you by
The Bridge School, the accredited international online private school of choice, at bridgek12.org.
Porch Light Rental and Destination Services. Reduce your renter lump sum or managed relocation costs. Visit them at porchlightrental.com.
CubeMonk, featuring the world's first smart cube. Track your goods with our advanced GPS system. Welcome to the future of moving and relocation at cubemonk.com.
Primestone Partners, featuring corporate, government, and developer housing solutions, as well as senior-level advisory services. Find them at primestonepartners.com.
And by heirs.com. With our full range of services, we can help design and manage your international relocation. Find us at heirs.com.
Insured Nomads provides protection and peace of mind with health insurance, travel insurance, group, or tailored insurance for the globally mobile. Visit us at insurednomads.com.
And by International Auto Source. We are the vehicle experts for expats, featuring all major brands of automobiles with flexible solutions and financing. On the web at intlauto.com.
This is Ed Cohen, and I'm in San Diego, California, and this is Global TV Talk Show, a news product of globalbusinessnews.net. Today is March 1st, 2021, and March is the International Women's Month. And so we're really honored today to be able to bring together a variety of agile women leaders in business from many countries. 10 or 11 countries. We have about 22 participants, and I'm really honored to be able to have this possibility happen here. You know, today, because of the COVID-related economy and the impact on companies, not just work from home and remote, and the impact on office space and how companies are managing, and still to be learned are the tax and legal implications of working from home. But companies are dealing with it, and decisions are being made in boardrooms right now. Today, we're going to discuss various opinions about all of that from these agile women leaders and a few guys too. So let's begin Global TV Talk Show today, International Women's Month. I'm in San Diego, California. It's a little past 6 a.m. The sun is just not up yet, but it's daybreak. And on the other side of the world, we have Pri in Bangalore. And what time is it there now?
It's 7:38. 7:30 in the evening.
Yes, okay. And Payman in Tehran, what time? Is about 5:30 there, is that correct?
Yes, this is 5:37 in Tehran time.
Okay, great. And Patty in Sao Paulo, what time is it there?
It's 11:07 here.
All right. And
Yep.
Irma, what time is it in Beirut?
It's 4:07 in the afternoon.
All right, this is cool. All right. So again, it's a talk show, and we're honoring International Women's Month, which starts today. And this is a vehicle that we've been playing with as my role as a publisher, as a broadcaster, to give space, public relations capability, extension to the idea of agile leadership who happen to be women in a business or any kind of a leadership role. And of course, it's a long time coming, but we want to make sure that everybody in the world knows about the diversity of voices, many voices. Again, we have 22 people who signed up to be involved here today, representing 11 countries. Excuse me. Okay, let's start. Ali, can you hear me?
Yes, can you? I am so sorry. I don't know what happened. I just lost internet and I had to reboot. Good
Okay.
morning, good evening,
Yeah,
everyone.
so as I mentioned earlier, Ali and I have known each other a long time. You've spoken several times at our live meetings, San Francisco and Seattle and someplace else I can't remember right now, and has been on our TV shows here a lot the past 8 or 9 months. So Ali is a retired senior manager with Boeing Corporation. He's been around the world selling airplanes and servicing customers. Ali, what's the name of your company right now?
It is FTD Global, and it's not FTD Flowers. I don't deal with flowers. I try to bring smiles to people's faces, but not through flowers. It stands for Feel, Think, Do. It's a cultural awareness, a global leadership company that I love to help people.
Okay, I want to reintroduce you to my new friend Irma Vertanian Balian, who is she's got her own business called. You know what? You should say it better than me.
Yeah, okay. I'm Irma Vartanian Balyan. I'm an intercultural coach, and my background is in protocol and self-diplomacy. I'm the founder of Protocol Wise. I coach and train individuals, executives, and women leaders in soft skills, communication skills, and leadership brand across cultures. I'm currently based in Lebanon because of the pandemic, but I have lived, traveled, worked in North America, Europe, and the Middle East. I am French educated, born in Lebanon of Armenian descent, and I'm really delighted to be here. Thank you, Ed, for having me.
Yes, and Irma and I did a wonderful talk show about a month ago, and we'll make it available to everybody free of charge following this broadcast. And she's all about very senior level uh, diplomatic corps and corporate executives, and it's all about culture. What's culture got to do with it? Chaba, what's culture got to do with all this?
Culture is technically a group habit driven by values and beliefs. It's almost like a common language. What is expected, what is rewarded, and something to rely on. All those unwritten rules we have to follow in order to be accepted. Pretty much, that's the most basic definition of that.
Right. Okay, let's go to our friend Payman Dayani in Tehran. So you're with Solico now, is that correct?
Yes, I'm currently with the Solico Group, and we are active in region, all in Iraq, in GCC, CIS, Russia, and Kyrgyzstan. And we are in the food and beverage business.
Yes, I understand you also have a representative office in LA, is that correct?
Yes, it's been closed due to the sanctions at the moment.
Yeah, well, someday that'll change, I'm sure.
Yeah, we were exporting dairy and packaged foods to US a while back, but now it's
Yeah.
stopped.
So your particular role, I know, is quite senior. You're at the C level. You're the chief architect, architect of what technology applications and organization development. Isn't that correct?
Yeah, I mean, I'm in the role of the CHRO, but most of my career was in charge of the transformation of the company. And so Solico, it's been turnaround company from a small company now to a regional company with $1 billion turnover, and we have about 18,000 people. And it's require a new set of arrangement of organization and technology together to be able to operate in this environment.
So this is not political. It's all business. It's all about business. So in his life, and we need to go to his LinkedIn page and check this out because he has a map, a global map of all the places where you've worked. So at one time you ran Africa, right, for Nokia?
Yeah, a while back I was in charge of the Middle East and Africa for Nokia in the good time of Nokia, and I was in charge of country entry for most of the countries in Middle East and Africa, and setting up offices for both business of the device business and also a network business for Nokia.
So at that time, let's just use that, and then you could talk about uh, the role you had at the telecommunications company in Iran, and also Dana Energy in Iran. These are all private companies, um, but at that time and today, uh, please contrast and compare the number of women in senior management roles in the companies where you've been. You can start from today and then look back.
Today, I mean, in a region, it's the growing number of the ladies are entering into the workforce for three main reasons. Number one is since I can say about 30 years back in Middle East, there has been a lot of investment on the education of the girls and the women in general, and they are being outnumber the men in general in Middle East, especially in Iran, in UAE, in other in Iraq as well. And this new generation of the ladies who are coming to be professional, they are getting their way into the market. And in other hand, today in the demand for a more diverse workforce, it's become essential to have different point of view, and also to capture the half of the population requirements into the business. That's why I can say it's essential to have ladies on board. In the beginning of the new 20th century, when the ladies they entered to the factories in the world, it was a shortage of the manpower. Now is a different story. It's the brain power, which is the businesses are starving to have, and now the ladies are playing this role of the brain power of the organizations. That's what I'm experiencing, especially as I say in Middle East. I can say it's rapid growing, and the number of the managers in the high positions currently in our senior management team, we have half of the managers are ladies, and they are outperform most of the big boys. As a matter of fact, 10 years ago, it was not this way. I mean, it was very few ladies they were have the credentials and also opportunity to play these roles in general in many of the Iranian company. I have to add this point that the founder of many of private sector in Middle East, now they have realized the importance of having ladies on board as a sitting at the board, as a matter of fact, to have their opinion and their viewpoint in steering the companies in this very vital environment.
Right, thank you. Now, so Payman, we're here I'm in California, and we watch the news, and we're seeing all kinds of stuff. Again, it's not political; it's just from a people point of view, from a business point of view. But it appears that many of the population in Iran, in Tehran in particular, is very, very interested in American culture, not politics for sure, but the American culture, and it seems to be like a symbiotic relationship that could blossom overnight if allowed. Now, as you know, in the greater LA region, which is just north of where I am right now, there must be 100,000 people from who originally came from, or whose family came from Iran, and
Yes.
and they're all American citizens now, and many of those people have gone on to lead very major corporations, such as Expedia and Uber and, some others as well.
Yeah.
So from your point of view, for many, many years, and you've got a doctor of business administration, you're an attorney, you're running human resources and business administration for a global company right now, and you were just recently involved with Dana Energy, which is a multi-billion-dollar integrated energy company, private in Iran. And you were, as I mentioned earlier, you were administrative head for the telecommunications company. So what do you think, just off the cuff, very quickly, 30 seconds? Can we open
Regarding
links?
the cultural tie, I think, is very strong. The biggest minority, immigrant Iranian, who migrated to the other part of the world, are the community who are in US. And this community of Iranians are playing a very big role in economy of the US, and they are very well educated. And these ties is not never been broken between Iranian people and American people. And during the past, I can say, 100 years, these ties, they always been strong between Iranian and American people. Up and down in the geopolitical circumstances, they have been up and down, but in general, peoples are generally more in favor of the American culture and individualistic way of living in Iran than comparing to the more collective culture of the East of Asia or the Central Asia. This is a very obvious and it's very clear about the Iranian culture and their ties with the founding principles of the American culture.
Thank you very much, Payman Dayani. I want to make sure that you get to know Chaba, who's an author and has developed a cross-cultural training device. So, please type on the chat, reconnect later. I want to go to Melinda Stallings, who's been on our program a few times. Hi, my friend. Are you in Austin or are you in New Orleans?
Yeah, hello, Ed. I'm really delighted to be here. I'm in Austin now. I finally relocated and just in time for a brutal winter storm. So I go from hurricanes to blizzards.
Yeah, and frozen pipes. So,
Exactly.
so among other things, Melinda Stallings has written a great book, and I don't want to butcher that title. So it's The Power of Positive Conflict Resolution, or something like that, right?
That's exactly correct. Yeah,
Okay, good.
8 simple steps to take any situation from breakdown to breakthrough.
Okay, so this is obviously cool to know. Why don't you give us, if you can do 30 seconds right now, and then we'll go around the panel and everyone can ask questions.
Okay,
So
sure.
what are the top 3 or 4 items that organizations and groups of any kind can break through and solve problems?
The first issue is that a lot of times we need to have courageous conversations with someone in conflict resolution. That's a particular part of the book about how to have those courageous conversations. And it's by really beginning to figure out, what are we trying to solve? What are we trying to bring a solution to? And then a step-by-step process, that 8-step process, to bring them to think about every aspect of how they're going to deal with either the individual or, say, a team or a department. And I think that a lot of times we have not had those conversations simply because it's like trying to eat the elephant and we're not quite sure where to start, or how do I say, or what do I do if they get emotional, or what happens if I'm maybe going to overstep some HR rule or whatever. So the book has given a very nice process that I developed over 20 years of working with corporations and organizations in conflict resolution. So it's built upon practices and principles that have emerged from working with executives, the C-suite, and listening to the challenges that they have had, and then working all the way down to frontline supervisors, because that's really where it begins. How do we teach our people how to have these conversations that we build trust, respect, integrity in process, and we open a dialogue? It's okay to ask questions. It's okay not to know. And collaboratively, the team can achieve more.
Great. Thank you, Melinda. Okay, so I want to go to Romania. Hello, Elena. Welcome to the program. You're CEO, founder and CEO of a relo company called Expat. Is that correct?
Yeah. Thank you, Ed. Yeah, so actually, it's Expat is not a relo company. Actually, we've created a platform, a marketplace platform. And I want to explain a bit more because it's quite something new in our industry. I'm sorry, I think you hear there are some back noises, typically for this for the time we're passing. So actually, Expat is a SaaS-enabled marketplace, meaning that we've created first a marketplace where hundreds of service providers can sell their services online. And then behind the marketplace, actually, we created all the tools that the service providers and the HR need in order to track the entire their entire activity. So, for example, at this stage, we have almost 300 service providers onboarded in our platform. In our platform, they can sell tax services, immigration services, relocation services, and moving services. Actually, with all those services, we are closing, let's say, the cycle of need of services that an expatriate actually needs when we are talking about an assignment. So in our platform, both the service providers and the HRs, they can track all actual and projected costs, the employee information, the assignments, the taxation processes, and we created all those features for our industry.
All right, thank you very much. I want to introduce Elena to Diane Ayres. Diane Ayres is founder and CEO of Porchlight Rental. Diane, please say hi and
good
do
morning,
a better.
Elena, or afternoon to whoever, wherever you are. Elena, I do think we actually are working within your organization to be platforms, to get on your platform. There is a young woman there. I actually am looking for her name on your phone. Pardon?
I think it's Modelina, right?
Yes, exactly. Yes. So we've had some nice exposure to what you do there. We provide destination services across North America. So I know we can cover a really nice footprint for the clients that you're helping serve. And so nice to meet you on Zoom.
It's great, Diane. Yeah. We are welcoming you. Yeah.
That's cool. Now, Elena, I want to introduce you to Kathy Hine, who's in the U.S. Kathy Hine is a partner, a managing director of Living Abroad.
Hi, Kathy.
Elena.
How are you?
I'm well. I love what you're doing. I think those are very important platforms where you pull in all the information, all the vendors in one spot are definitely very valuable to HR directors, mobility. You know, I think when the pandemic hit, there were a lot of companies scrambling to figure out where their expats were. So yes. I see that as your platform as something very valuable to, for them, because I think they couldn't figure out where where their expats were. But, what Living Abroad does, and it seems to me that we're getting more and more inquiries from platforms because we create destination reports on over 230 locations around the world that users can go to and get all the information they need for their move. And we've been contacted, as I said, at the end of last year by platforms that need this information because we write it, it's all written in-house and it's vetted by our content management team. And so it's very useful. We all know that information, good information, is really important. And we saw that in the US because of the election. Where are we going to get that information that we could trust and rely on? And that's what we've been bringing to the table for, I think, almost 30 years now.
Okay, and
So
now I want to introduce you both to Sunday in South Africa. So Sunday, you're a coach. You're on the top level, C-level consultancy lists, and one of your focuses, if I may say, as a bit of an intro here, is helping women, particularly women on international. So why don't you do a little bit better job than I just did?
Well, I guess I would frame myself as the secret weapon behind the women who have made the choice to move abroad or have found themselves living and working abroad. I'm the one who tries to make sure that the companies get the return on the investment, and the reload services and destination services actually get return on their investment by helping these women really succeed with whatever challenges that they're facing. So through my podcast and through coaching and through my Expat Coach Coalition, we really try to hone in on that human side of change in a cross-cultural context with complex historical situations, high performance pressure, right? I really encourage women who are trying to perform and make their lives rich, emotionally, professionally, abroad to sort of get support and tackle all of those things, because it's a lot of layers.
Wow, that's interesting. So let's go to Brazil. Juliana, welcome. And congratulations, Juliana, on your new business.
Hi, Ed. Thank you again for having me here. Yes, I'm really excited with my new venture. I founded iGo Immigration Services to continue offering the immigration and taxation services that we do here in Brazil. I'm also one of the providers in Madalena and Elena platform, Expat. So it's nice to hear about your business. It's very interesting. I really appreciate the idea of the platform. And that's it. I'm really excited from now on.
Okay, so you have a young daughter and you also are an attorney. And so what's happening in Brazil these days? Are things getting better?
No, not exactly. We are, to be honest, we are living now another lockdown, a kind of lockdown, because we don't have exactly a very control here of the things. So we are living a difficult time. But in São Paulo, to be honest, things are more normal because, for an example, my daughter is back on the school, so she's studying again. For me, it's a relief because I think she needed this kind of social, to be with other kids, having fun, and to her development. But in general, the business here is very difficult. We are facing a very hard time. For an example, in Curitiba, from where Patty is coming, they are facing another lockdown there, so things are all closed. We are having a very, very hard time.
Okay, Patty, you recently, if I may say so, you recently retired from Unilever, managing a broad portfolio, right? Why don't you tell us about yourself and Brazil Talks?
I will. Thanks, Ed, for having me again on the show. It's a pleasure to be here. I have to say that I did fly today from Curitiba to São Paulo for the first time since March 13th last year.
Wow.
It was a little bit scary, but it was very safe. So everything was very closed, and you couldn't have anybody sitting next to you on the airplane. It was just two people on each on the seats. And I mean, I got on the plane nervous, but I got off the plane calm because I thought it was nice and safe to fly again. And I have to be honest, I was missing it because I fly every week. And a whole year without flying, I was like, oh my God, what's happening? Right. So like Juliana said, yeah, Curitiba is my hometown in the south of Brazil. And unfortunately, it is going through a terrible situation now. Hospitals are at 99% of COVID beds. I'm not sure if that's how you say it. But we hope to get better. So they did put a curfew, not to stop the economy of the state or the city. So the curfew starts at 8 p.m. and goes until 5 a.m. So who has to go out to work can go out normally to work and everything. Schools had reopened in February. Now for this week, this specific 10 days where the curfew is 8 p.m., they closed again, went back to online. And all mothers like Juliana are hoping that they go back after the 10 days of this new curfew. I have to say that we don't have, I hate saying this and I hate having to admit it, but we don't have federal instruction of what to do. Our president is a little bit inconsequent sometimes, and he just lost his main example in the US, right? So he follows a little bit the previous one. And so we have state determinations of what to do, and each state is doing something different. And even in some states, you have the cities deciding what to do, what to close, what to open. So it's a little bit crazy not to have, with the size of Brazil, not to have a federal law, let's say. But we're surviving. We're surviving. Business is slow, but it is starting to pick up if you consider 6-8 months ago. So let's hope that it continues picking up. Going to me now. I did retire from Unilever. A lot of time with HSBC before Unilever, 5 years with Unilever. And I decided it was time to stop being a corporate global mobility professional. During the pandemic, myself and Vanessa, which is my partner, we founded Brazil Talks. It's a platform for the community of global mobility in Brazil and in LATAM. So we do webinars on all the topics, the hot topics that are coming. We have people from all over the world talking. We have international webinars. We have just Brazilian webinars. We are starting now on the 4th of March, this Thursday, with LATAM Talks. So it will be in Spanish for the Spanish-speaking countries, with the same objective. We want to be inclusive, so we put vendors and service providers and corporates and whoever needs to be on that show on the panel. So the important thing is that we get the best quality of the information to share with our global mobility community. It is something that we miss here because as we are not where you have the major ERCs or the major other events that you have, sometimes the community gets a little bit closed into their own world. So Brazil Talks came to open that world and open their view to show them different things and how new things. For example, Elena's platform is something that I think we should get on the show, Elena, because it's important that service providers in Brazil get to know you, like Juliana is already on your platform. So I think it's important.
Okay.
That's a little bit about me, Ed.
Yeah, well, thank you very much for doing this, and we look forward to helping to promote what you guys are doing on a continuum going forward. Mabel, please introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your consultancy.
I am from the same city as Patricia in the south of Brazil, and my consultancy is Master Expat, which is a global mobility training. We had been working for more than 3 years in Brazil with this training specific for global mobility aspects, legal aspects for Brazil. And now on in May, we will launch global mobility training for Latin America. So this is the new project. We have already more than 20 trainers for this course, and we're expecting to have a good success on that. So finger crossed, we will have a great Master Expat in Latam.
Okay, that's great. And now let's go to London area. Sophie King, welcome to the broadcast. This is your first time.
Thanks. Yeah. So yeah, my name's Sophie. I work in immigration. I've recently left the senior exec team of a largish immigration company called Newland Chase, and set up my own business. I had my own business before, actually, 10 years ago, called Agile Immigration, and we specialize in bringing together immigration people. So actually, it's really similar to what a lot of other people are talking about. I'm very interested in bringing people together and helping people have a better way of communicating and supporting one another. So we have a forum on our website called the OWL Immigration Parliament, and the idea is that immigration lawyers, both in-house and service providers, and immigration experts, both in-house and service providers, can come and talk together and get to know each other. And it's nice to see so many familiar faces here. So I know a lot of you guys, and it's lovely to be here with you.
I know that face to face.
Sophie has been with us on Brazil Talks already.
It was lovely.
Yeah.
Time. Ask me again, Patricia. I'll come again.
I will. Thank you.
So now I want to go and get a different perspective, Dr. Natalie Forrest. So you've heard about all this reinventions and rethinking and resetting agenda. So what do you think about all that? That's good for mental health, right?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely, and I love hearing it. I am sick and tired of the word pivot. I have to admit that. I don't think we're pivoting. I think we're just, going with the flow. It's a new challenge, and if you're able to accept that challenge, then your mental health automatically gets better because you're not stagnant. If you're stagnant, you're not evolving. But if you consistently move, even if you were not right now creating a new business, as long as you're moving and have ideas, that's the crucial aspect. So I love hearing that, and I love hearing, especially right now, about South America as well, with those talks and just taking it online, because voices need to be heard. And if we don't make it available, then people don't communicate. So what I'm hearing is cross-cultural communication. The way that I understand it, which is it's not just across countries, but it's across genders, it's across departments, it's across different ideas. And I forget who said that at the very beginning. I apologize that I'm forgetting who said that. But it is all about opening the conversation up. And right now, we're all being pushed to do that. There's no more avoiding the tough issues. So I think this is exciting. It's amazing, and it is much needed. I think, like Payman said earlier, women need to be on the forefront of this, because we're known to communicate, sometimes maybe over communicate, but in general we communicate. So that's what we thrive at, and bringing a lot of the men, especially those on the platform today, into it, because they're also great communicators. So it's not about women against men, it's all about us coming together and making that forward movement, taking those steps and supporting one another. So I love what I'm hearing.
Okay, that's great. Ali Shami, in your years of senior leadership management role within Boeing, the large corporation, what do you take from what you've just heard?
I love what I'm hearing. I probably better off just listening and learning from everybody. I hope I'll be able to contribute to this healthy and rich conversation. Absolutely. I really love it when we have men and women in a leadership role working together. And it's amazing how just one by themselves, it's not enough. I've been on teams where I'm the only male. And when I step outside and I'll just hear how things are see how things are going, it's going well, but it could be better. And at the same time, I've been on teams where we have female leaders, and for some reason they get moved to a bigger and higher roles, and then all men, and all of a sudden men start behaving differently. So I know there is this idea that women, we need to be like men. We need to be assertive. We see how they're doing things and they're being successful, so we need to be like them. Guess what? Not sure if men are happy with the way things are going. So please do not copy what men are doing. Look for the ideal leadership style that is better than both, rather than us against them. And it's just, it's not a good and healthy way to look at it. I hope one day we will stop having those events on those talks about men participation, leadership, men, and it's look at it as a global leadership, even extend beyond one particular way of doing things. But before, at the end, I just want to let you know that what you guys are doing, and this is from the eyes of someone who used the relocation mobility service, what you do is amazingly important. When I used to travel overseas, and as Kathy was talking about the reports, I would look at these reports. I would read about that particular culture, what to do, what not to do. And there is nothing worse than spending 95% of your energy just to make it to let's say Beirut, or it could be Busan in Korea, and just you're so exhausted, and now all of a sudden you've exhausted 95% of your energy, and you're dedicating only 5% of that to work with the most important element of your business, which are customers. So providing that help, mobility, relocation, finding the right place to live, the family that your family are feeling good, you work with families, it's amazingly important. So I salute you, and I thank you for all. I'm pretty sure at one point you've helped someone from the company I used to work for. So just want to thank you.
Thank you. Okay, let's go back to Emma and then Sunday. Emma, from your perspective and the protocols, first of all, why don't you tell us your definition from your perspective, protocols? What does this really mean? It's a sort of a way of doing things. Am I correct?
Yes, correct. A lot of people have this misconception about protocol. When they hear the word protocol, they think it's about rigidity, it's about rules that are fixed, and it's only about royalty, and it is something that they have nothing to do with. But that's not true, because protocol is a tool that puts things into perspective and harmonizes things, and makes the environment more trustworthy, and people are able to trust each other because there is a right way of doing things, to the right people in the right mindset at the right time. And that's what ultimately protocol is, and all this to do it in a wise way. Why do I say in a wise way? Because whatever can apply to one person may not necessarily be the right approach to someone else, and that has to do with culture. That's where protocol and culture go hand in hand, because you need to do the right thing to this person, and take into consideration the approach, the mindset, the cultural background, the religious background, and all these together go hand in hand. You cannot have one without the other. And coming back to what was being said, I just loved what Natalie and Ali mentioned, and I couldn't agree more with what they said. And I know from my personal trainings, when I have done, I've had groups of men where I had to train only men, and where I had to train only women. And it was my own experience. I'm not generalizing, I'm not stereotyping, but I found it a little bit more challenging when it was a group of only men, because sometimes it depends on the group, and the bonding that they have together. It's from my experience, it was less prone to coaching than the women group. But when I looked at it, I think the best combination that I had to work with were the teams where I had both, and equal division, equal amount of men, equal amount of women. And that's where it was just so harmonized, and they all clicked together, and it was very productive. trainings, which I have done. And you know what, I also liked what Payman said earlier, where how women before they used to be in roles, or they were given the opportunity at some point, because you know people used to think that, okay, we have to have gender diversity, and we have to look like we're not biased, even though in their minds they were still biased, and that didn't get people anywhere. And now they realize that it is the brain diversity, the cognitive diversity, that is as important as the other parts of diversity, which may be sometimes superficial diversity. And that's where, when both entities of diversity, the cognitive and uh, let's just use the word superficial just for the lack of another one, when you have both together, that's when you have a good and productive and effective communication and productive results there.
Thank you, Irma. Let's go to Sunday in South Africa. So, Sunday, you have a time constraint, I know. So, I'd like to get your opinion for a couple of minutes here. First of all, comment on what you've just heard from Irma and from Melinda and our friends from Brazil, and tie that together with your own current experience, because you've recently relocated back to South Africa. And what is all that relating to who you are right now?
Gosh, that's a big question. I think, I mean, just quick in terms of my own geographical moves, I was born and raised in the US, moved to Switzerland, became Swiss, moved to West Africa, had to suddenly leave West Africa due to some terrorist attacks that were happening in Burkina Faso, and then quickly moved to South Africa, having never set foot in South Africa or Burkina Faso, and have been living a cross-cultural and life for over 20 years. So I want to just frame that with my professional experiences. I get how hard those moves are because I've lived them. I've had planned moves. I've had unexpected, evacuations. I get that. And I think I also work with high performing teams, cross-cultural teams. And I want to go to the point of how groups really work well. I think the important part is, thanks to excellent facilitation, you can get diverse groups to work well. That the leadership has an immense responsibility to see differences and know that there are differences that really make a difference, and not minimize that. At the same time, we need to look for what's common. I think that's around the gender discussion. That's what I'm looking at is, where are we similar and where are we different? It's not one or the other. And that's a stretch that we as humans need to do. I know how easy it is to categorize people. It's so much more simple. I catch myself doing it, but really extending that. And I wanted to just add, I think one of the things when we're talking about any of these ways of leading, of being successful in companies, of navigating international moves, that what we don't do well enough, I think, I'm just going to call it out, in corporate, in foreign service, in any of the sort of rotational global lives, is I don't think we do a good enough job acknowledging how important it is to have space for vulnerability and for humility, and that the human connection is absolutely fundamental in any of these processes, from relocation to intercultural relationships. And I just feel like I really encourage all of you who are already daring to talk about those topics. And I would encourage you to continue to do that, because what I look at is you can have the best relocation service in terms of technical move, but if the human connection is off, it can be a very difficult situation for a family. Or you can have a great diversity in your company, but if the manager, the leader, doesn't see someone and their gender identity or ethnic background or religious beliefs, as if they don't just see them, right? If those are minimized, it can have a huge impact on people's well-being, their success, their performance. So I'm kind of one of those people who wants to bring the straight talk to the table, and I know that is what will help enrich performance and someone's experience.
Something that's really neat is that the Bridge School partners with various organizations to provide learning for their students. For example, we partner with a major ballet company, and we are able to enroll several of their students into our school. So now not only is the student able to participate in a school and have a seamless transition while they're very active in their ballet career, but now they have other dancers that are with them that are doing some of the same courses. So it's almost becoming a camaraderie where they're taking similar courses, they're working together on their ballet, and really being able to form this great partnership with these organizations to provide a needed service. A lot of times there are student athletes who will spend hours and hours at the gym or at the basketball courts, wherever it is. And if they're attending a traditional school, they're in school from 8 to 3. They get a quick snack, and then they're at the gym for 3 to 4 hours in the evening. Coming to us and having that partnership, they're able to break that up throughout the day. They can have a morning practice, get some schooling in, have an afternoon practice, finish their schooling in the evening. So there's that flexibility. And additionally, if there are tournaments or performances, it's fantastic because if there's a week where they have shows straight through, they can take that week off of learning and then pick back up when they're done. So it offers this great flexibility. And for the program owners of these sports leagues, it is a win-win situation for them because they see this need. They see this need that their students need to make sure that they are obtaining the grades necessary to be successful adults in our country and in other countries. But it provides them an environment where they can be successful at both.
Let's go to Pri in India. Pri, thank you. So, Pri, your role with Helma International is global partnerships. Is that right?
This is correct. Hi, Ed. Hi, everyone. Thank you again, Ed, for having me here. This is correct at Helma International, which is again a global mobility company, much like that's where Juliana or Sophie works. So what I do at Helma is look for global partners around the world in the domain of immigration, relocation, tax, and payroll. And I also look after outbound services, which means when Indian assignees go to work abroad, clients approach us so that we can put in, not only find reliable partners who can help them on site, but to put in place process and protocols. So I think, in line with what everyone was speaking about now, one of the things that we have seen through the pandemic, especially last year, is that, pre-pandemic, there was a sense of competition in the world of mobility. Who's doing what? Are we winning the client? If we are winning, is somebody losing out on clients? I think what we have seen today, from what different people have said, whether it's Elena or Patricia, is a sense of collaboration, because there's a certain realization that when the world is VUCA, like you have said, the topic of your conversation tonight, you have to do something which build partnerships, collaborate, so that you can think out of the box and not always see as a win-lose situation, because there was much to lose if you think of it during last year, during the pandemic. And as we are talking about the subject of women, I think more than ever, the pandemic brought in forefront the role of a woman as a mom, as a homemaker, as a career woman, which we had to play, all, in full throttle, and had to do it seamlessly, 18 hours a day. And I think this is something, we should celebrate, that we were able to do it so well, and wear so many hats, and do it all. Well, that's all I have to say.
Thank you. I want to go to Melinda Stallings. She has some insight for us from a Harvard study.
Hey, so backing up what Sunday was talking about, and also Natalie, and that focus on having the communication, not only vulnerability, but also being able to display the confidence. And this is from a recent HBR study, and these are what men were told about vision, office politics, confidence, and delivery. So women were told, focus on delivery, cope with office politics, get along, and be more confident. On the other hand, the advice the men received were set the vision, leverage office politics, claim space, display more confidence. So even the wording in which that is delivered has certainly a much more masculine impact to the males, and more of that feminine, let's kind of massage things and make things happen in the way that we do. Priam, to your point, at least now we're validated about the 18 hours a day of what we've done all along, just maybe it's never really come to light before. That's not to discredit men. I'm not a man basher. I know that there are many men out there who have really picked up the pace. But we are still very much set in those traditional roles. And until we can begin to have that open dialogue, until we can begin to actively communicate about, here's how we see things, here is how our different perceptions, and actually explore those and come to more of a common language or a commonality in perceptions, then we're going to remain where we are, living in insanity, right? And for the board, I live in the South of the United States, New Orleans and now Texas, and I work with a lot of financial institutions and airports and things that they're governed by boards. There may be 1 or 2 women on a board of 24 people. Until that changes and we have some kind of more of a direct impact, and being able to really bring our viewpoints to helping those organizations to prosper and improve, I think, again, we're living in an Einstein kind of situation. So thanks for letting me share that. That's an HBR article, if anyone's interested.
Yeah, thank you very much. So are you still teaching bankers?
I am, yes. We're not teaching face-to-face anymore, but we are going to be doing the virtual thing because we just can't chance it.
Yeah, Patty.
I just need to share this before I have another meeting and I have to drop off, but I just couldn't drop off without sharing this. So 20 years of HSBC, 20 years of suffering against everything you just said, Melinda. And when I was promoted first to a manager and then to a senior manager, I actually suffered a little bit of bullying, even if you can say it, because why her and not me? I'm the man. I'm the one that has to take more money home, or even, absurd things I had to hear. So yeah, it's very difficult. And due to all these difficult situations that I went through as first in HSBC and then a little bit in Unilever also, I created now a program, Ed, where I do mentoring with young women. So I don't get the executive that's already established, right? I get that person that's coming along that wants to become something, because they are used to hearing exactly what Melinda said. You sit down and you deliver because that's what you're here for, right? And so I'm trying to change their mindset as they are young. And I think the few that I have helped already have already finished the program. I know they are even better employed now than what they were before. And just to complete it a little bit, Melinda, there's a study here in one of the main universities here in Brazil called FGV, where it's proven that women never discuss their salary when they're receiving a proposal, because they always think, yeah, I'm getting paid because I don't even know if I'm going to be able to deliver that. They never think that they're being invited or they're applying for that role and they're being accepted because yes, they can deliver that. And at the same time, men never accept the first salary proposal. They always go back and say, no, let's discuss this. So that's something that I'm also trying to learn with the young ladies that I'm trying to teach the young ladies that I'm working with. I think it's really, really important.
Just to piggyback on that, we as women, all of us professional women, we need to find a young woman to mentor, because we need to lift each other up. I haven't gotten my LinkedIn post yet, but up today, but it will speak exactly to that. If there is a woman and she's the one person who is serving on a board or an important commission, and a young woman has gone to ask her, will you mentor me? She's reticent because there's one position, right? And so, you know, that's a challenge for me to want to mentor you. I was asked to participate in a project honoring National Women's Month, and many of the respondents said, you know, I'm having trouble thinking of a woman who really had a huge impact on my work life. I mean, there are people like, there's familial and friends, but that mentoring in the work life is really challenging. So now is a great time for that change. Thank you for that, Patty. I really appreciate you doing that with those young women.
But at the same time, it's so important. For example, I mentored the girl that used to work with me, the senior consultant that was on my team in Unilever. And I mentored her the whole pandemic last year, and she was promoted to a manager in my place. So I think that's amazing. You know, it's nice to see them stepping up and going in and getting more challenges. So I really enjoy that work also. I love doing that.
So
Thank you.
Patty, Latin America culture is predominantly historically male, right?
Male. Yep.
Yeah.
Yes, it is.
Is that changing?
It began to change. You have a few people that have changed their mindset, a few companies that have changed their mindset. Some companies put it in the boards, how do you say it? The board's deliveries that they have to have, for example, 50% women in their managerial roles. Some companies do that, and it has to be complied with, right? But your first conversation, your first contact, it's still very male, and then you prove, right? You have to prove. And one thing that I also felt, and I tried to make the young girls not feel that, is that we always have to prove ourselves more. We always have to do a little bit more than what the men do to show that we're just as good as them, or even better sometimes.
So I want to introduce Galia. Welcome to the show, Galia.
Ed, I'm really sorry, but I'm going to have to drop off for the other meeting because I'm already 4 minutes late. But I had to share this. Okay.
Right on.
Thank you, everyone. It was a pleasure to be here.
Great.
Okay,
Thank
bye.
you. Thank you. Galia, so you are vice president with Weikert. So congratulations on that promotion.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Hi, everyone. I joined the party a little later, but it was really insightful to hear the discussion that's been going on. So thanks for having me, Ed. Looking forward to continuing.
So you bet. So what are you seeing out there? Are you seeing an uptick in relocations, or is everything still on hold?
You know, I think so what we're seeing, which is a really positive sign, is an uptick, certainly in relocations. There's definitely a pent-up demand to send people. And as, you know, vaccination has been on its way, we're seeing many corporations starting to send people overseas and planning more towards the summer. So June, we're seeing a lot of activity going to take place in the second half of this year. And not to say there's been some activity already, but obviously every situation in every country you're going to has specific nuances, but we're definitely starting to see an uptick. And I expect the second half of the year to be very active.
Okay, Marianne, in the background, Marianne from San Francisco, welcome. Do you want to jump in here?
Yes, Ed, I do. I love this conversation. Oh my God. I don't even know what to say. So I do two major things in my life. I am an immigration practitioner with a French company, a French software procurement company called Ivalua. So I manage the immigration matters for the foreign national personnel, which are mostly French, Indian, and Japanese. We don't have a lot of movement going on right now, but things are starting to pick up, and I foresee that increasing in the next couple of months. The other thing that I do is I am a mentor with a US Department of State program called Tech Women, and that brings women from the Middle East, Africa, South, and Central Asia to work in Silicon Valley companies on a 5-week mentorship program. No one went anywhere this time, so it's all been done virtually. And I just finished wrapping up a project with a group of women from Egypt. It's an impact project, so they came up with an idea that would solve a socioeconomic problem in their community. And what they have worked on is people with disabilities. So they're trying to set up a whole mapping system and an app to let disabled people, starting out with wheelchair users first, to let people know which places are user-friendly that can allow them access to buildings, to banks, to restaurants, and things like that.
Great. Well, thank you very much for jumping in. John Platt, do you want to say hello and talk a little bit about your experiencing with 12,000 people working for you?
Well, I will say hello. I have to jump off real quick too because I have a previous engagement. But it's been a pleasure to be on here today and to listen to this. I've been a very strong proponent about women in management. I've had several, many actually, work for me over the years. And as Ed said, my numbers that I had went up to a company of 12,000 in my area. So. But I found a lot of interesting comments today. Actually, it's a lot of comments that should have been out 10 years ago, but I found it very, very interesting. And I look forward to hearing more of this subject and other subjects from Ed. I'm really, really intrigued by it. But thank you very much, Ed. Thank you, everybody. I appreciate, my being on, and I'll see you later.
All right, ciao, and thanks very much. Okay, Mark Colo is in Southern California as well. Mark Colo has just written a new book. Mark, what is the title of your book?
The title of the book is The Noble and Great Ones.
But that's not about you, though, right?
I'd like to think it was an autobiography on myself, but actually it's not. But it was fun to write. It's just the premise of the book is that there's nobility and greatness in all of us, and we just have to find it. And so I talk about different principles and how to seek out your own nobility and greatness. But I want to say to Melinda, it's good to see you again, and you can bash me anytime you'd like. I'll take all you've got to give. And I'm interested in learning more about Natalie as well and what she does. So. But I'm thankful to be on the show with all of you. You all are so talented and gifted, and you all are noble and great in what you do. So I'm thankful for that. As far as my background, I co-founded 2 RMC companies in my career, relocation management companies. I've authored 2 books. In fact, one is The Noble and Great Ones, and the other one is called Peace with Parkinson's. I've had Parkinson's for 14 years. I've been running ever since to catch up with Michael J. Fox. He's hard to catch, hard man to even meet, but I enjoy what we do. I founded a foundation called Find NeuroHelp. And what we do is we help people with any needs they have that's neurological related where their healthcare coverage doesn't help them. So we're kind of like the Aflac of neurological services. And that's what we do. That's what we do, and that's what we focus on.
So it's findneurohelp.org.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
So check us out.
Yeah. Okay, Mark, thank you very much for being a guest on this show and the others. We look forward to working more together. So Dr. Natalie Forrest is also a speaker and a trainer, and is a partner in some private enterprises as well. And she's a speaker in this new thing called the Los Angeles Tribune, which is an online newspaper, right?
Yeah. Yes. I'm actually the VP of operations there. So we do a lot of events, and we have we just finished a major event. So it is one of the things that I love to do, putting on events. But what we do, sort of in line with what was mentioned about mentoring, when we put on events, it's usually free to the public. Because we want people to be able to get the information. So our last event was first day, I think, was 14 hours. Second day was 12 hours. But that's just on the side, and it's really more about what I usually end up talking about in those is really the subconscious mind. You know, that's what we've been exploring here. It's what do we believe, why do we believe it, and how do we get out of it? So when we're talking about mentoring young women or mentoring our male counterparts, you know, whoever we're mentoring, it's really understanding what their belief systems are, and they don't even know. I mean, there are so many people out there who just go on what I call autopilot. They don't mean any harm by it. It's the way that they've been taught. That's just the way that the world works for them. So we got to alert them. We got to help awaken them to what is really going on. Had a conversation with actually a very good friend the other day, and we were talking about a common acquaintance. And he's like, yeah, no, he's really grown on me. And so I agreed. I said, yes. However, the one thing that I really have issues with this gentleman, however he has grown on us, is the fact that he does not talk to me directly. He only talks to you. He invites you, not me. But we're both on the same level, right? And since I'm VP of operations, he really should be talking to me in some instances. And I don't take it personal. But so my friend said, you know, oh, I didn't notice that. And he is like huge on women empowerment and all the terms that you would want to use. So it was really interesting. He's like, oh, I didn't realize that. I was like, well, I'm okay with it. I know this guy, so I know how it works, but it is still happening regardless of how you are positioned on a scale, either in a company or outside. You're still always being judged in some way as a woman. Or, for example, my friend Forbes Riley, who some of you may or may not know, is not important, but she's a pretty big name out there. She mentioned there are all these high profile speakers and trainers out there. And, you know, we see their pictures all over social media. But where are the women? And we have a lot of you here, right? I mean, you're doing this training. You're helping corporations, whether it's expats or others. You're doing it. You know, I'm doing my part in it with cultural change and intercultural communication. But you have programs that speed everything up, that bring us forward. But you're not being asked to deliver a keynote and get paid $50,000 for it. Why is that? And you know, I think it's the world we live in, and I think it's where we're now moving out of. And that's what I think is female leadership, or I like to call it feminine leadership, which has nothing to do with your gender, right? It's the help everybody, mentor everybody, give everybody a chance versus let's always look at this one group of people. So that's why I love what Ed always puts together, because it's not what was the agile leadership was the topic today, but there are a lot of men in here who are just like us, who want to promote what is necessary, who have been breaking grounds and moving forward. So I think this is a very important platform for all of us to engage what I call feminine leadership, whether it's the cultural communication, whether it's mentoring. And I do want to say that, and think I've said this before, that I've actually had more problems with women backstabbing me versus men. So I also have to point that out. There's, being a historian by trade, we always talk about the crab mentality, right? It's like, instead of climb on my shoulder and get up, there are still a lot of women who believe in lack. And therefore they're like, well, since there's only one woman on this platform speaking, I want to be that woman. And that I think is something that when we're talking about mentoring women, young women or others, we also need to take into account to get rid of that kind of attitude.
So now I want to go back to Elena. Thank you very much for participating today. So how does all this sound to you?
Yeah, it's extremely interesting for me. Actually, you know, when I jumped into this industry 14 years ago, you know, the industry is somehow backed by women in immigration, relocation, tax. You know, let's say that the women are preponderant. So there are a lot of women. And I didn't, like, I felt very soft, you know, and very welcome into the industry. But after a couple of years, I made a switch. And I had a different role as an HR executive. And I remember very well that actually I was the only female in the board. And I felt quite strange, you know, because the company wanted major changes at the time. It's quite a big company. It's listed on the stock exchange and so on. They wanted actually a lot of changes, but it was very, very hard to somehow to cope that all the changes I was you know, proposing were coming from a woman, you know, and it was quite hard even for me, but as well for them, you know, the men in the executive board. So I had some tough times at the moment. I didn't get any coach for this, but I was quite feisty. So somehow at the moment it was like a, you know, a training for the future. Indeed, it's very hard. It's very hard, for example, for women in tech. Imagine that I founded a company like you know, most of us present here we have, and I founded this so many years ago, an immigration tax and relocation company. And then we decided that we want to democratize how things are happening, and we want to put on the forefront all the service providers using somehow the same model as Booking, Airbnb. Like, everybody who has a good service should sell the service and have a digital presence. So the beginning was quite hard, you know, because we built a product, you know, an ecosystem, a global ecosystem. So it was not easy, and it's not easy even now, because people, they consider, you know, that especially tech is a part of the male area, not female area, but with a lot of resilience and a lot of you know, struggles, and with this actually training that I had before, we managed to build what we've built. We managed to you know, to convince talented males to join us. But of course, the start, and even now, was actually not easy at all. And your guests, Edwin, actually everybody mentioned that, you know, not everybody, but a few of them mentioned that for women it's indeed much harder, because we have to prove more. You know, we have to work, let's say, more to prove more. And in technology, it's even harder, you know, because in history, women were not, you know, somehow not motivated, but somehow helped to go and to choose IT paths and so on. So for us, at least my generation, we find it a bit harder. But I totally agree. It's not easy. but it's not impossible. And I think that if we support each other, it will be much easier. For example, in my offline business, my colleagues are, and my colleague who owns and who runs the show right now is an extraordinary female, and I truly believe in the power of women and our capabilities.
So Elena, tell me very quickly, how's business in Romania and Eastern Europe?
Business, I think that we're doing good. I think that we have, we're quite, savvy in regards to technology. And especially, with XPAT, we consider that, digital presence is key. And it is said that marketplaces provides the fastest opportunity to test and penetrate new international markets. So yeah, there is no doubt that, for example, online B2B marketplaces like ours are the growth engine behind this e-commerce growth and prosperity. So we are quite confident that we will manage to build a nice product where most of us will embark and will sell to corporate clients directly on the online.
Great. Let's go back to Beirut. Irma, thank you very much for participating. So what's your take so far on this talk?
Yeah, it's all very interesting, and it resonates with my thoughts. And I just, when earlier Natalie was saying about women not supporting each other, I've had similar experiences, and I've heard a lot of women, for some reason, always mentioning that when they want to show that they are competent, they are capable, they always want to make sure people understand that, oh, I work with men, I cannot work with women. I've heard that many times, and I just couldn't understand. I mean, what do you mean by that? If you are not able to work with your own gender, and what does that say about you, and how are you empowering yourself and your own gender? It contradicts itself in a way. And empowering each other means that you have to support, you have to see things in a positive way, and not in a selfish way. And if we want to talk about leading or mentoring, it's about the other person, not us. I have seen a lot of leaders, women leaders who have gotten to top positions. And when they have mentees, all they say is, well, when I was in your place, I was the only woman who did this. I was the only woman who was able to get this and that. But how is that helping the mentee? How is that helping the young female who wants to get to places? I think sometimes they do that because they think that they are inspiring, but on the contrary, instead they are trying to boost their own ego in a way. And this is something that when a leader wants to help her team members to thrive, she has to put the focus on the other and not on herself. So I think these are important issues that we have to take into consideration. Not only think about pushing ourselves to the front, but also seeing how our mindset is affecting the people who are gonna follow in our footsteps, and try to empathize. Because sometimes when leaders have a tough journey and they get to where they are, for some reason they forget about where they come from, and they forget about the struggles they went through. And they always say, well, I did this, nobody helped me, so why should I be there for that person? Let them go through what I went through. And that's not helping society. That's not that's not what leadership skills is about. You need to, even if you had a tough background, even if you had a rough journey, don't take it on the others. Try to have a mindset that is bigger, that is bigger than you, so that you would be able to give more to the people who are gonna follow in your footsteps, because you want people to take the positive that you're gonna give, not subconsciously give them something negative. Because for leaders, once you get to a leadership role, who their role model is or was is very important, because that says a lot about their present leadership. And if we want to be role models, we have to, give the best we can and focus on the other, not on us.
Thank you so much. Diane Ayers, what do you think of all this?
I'm over here taking notes. Number one, this has been a fantastic discussion. I know you all agree because I can hear it and see it on your faces. I'm sitting here thinking, frankly, how interesting my experience has been in my 30 years of business, because I was kind of the opposite of what people are describing right now. I very much grew up in a male environment in corporate America, but one of my first experiences out of college was a male mentor. And I joined an entrepreneur, and I was one of his first employees, and he mentored me in business. And I helped grow his business. I grew as a professional. He grew as a professional and successful businessman, ended up taking the business public. I sat through all of that as the right-hand person. I was his VP of everything, and it catapulted me into being able to start my own business. And the beauty of this story is that this gentleman was he was an investor in my business. So it was mentoring full circle. And I very much, I don't know that I've ever recognized how amazing that opportunity was coming from a man. Just listening to these conversations in some ways. And I'm in a relocation industry where most of you are, and it's very female oriented. A lot of women work in the consultant roles and the sales roles and so forth. And so I have a lot of women that I work with, and it didn't occur to me to not continue to mentor and promote. But so much of that, I think, just comes from your own security as a person. And, just as all of you have been talking about, you don't want to bring women down by doing that, male or female. You're just really trying to elevate yourself. So much of this dynamic is about, understanding who you are as a human being and really figuring out how you are going to, better yourself. And in doing so, I mean that in a humble way, but that it means taking a collaborative approach and having your community around you and having men and women at the table. And you need both at the table if you're going to, roll out initiatives in your organization. You need to know that you brought in the diversity that's needed in order to create the successful outcomes you want throughout your organization. And I want to mention something I've said on Ed's show before, is I'm a woman-owned business, and I went through the certification process here in the United States as a certified woman-owned business. And in attending some of their seminars, I got to know a lot of diversity supply chain individuals that attend, from Walmart to Eaton to, all the large organizations. And I had the opportunity to sit down with a few of them, and they were men, and they pointed out some things that I was completely unaware of as a judgment, I'll call it, in that women-owned businesses are seen as small. So an immediate judgment that if you are a female owning a business, you immediately the judgment is it's small. And by virtue of being small, how can you really serve the Walmarts and the Amazons and the Eatons of the world? And the initiatives are all right, the spirit of it all, but just listening to that, it never even occurred to me. And so I'm kind of feeling blessed that I went through my life with this optimism and not even understanding that some of these hurdles existed. And then being told this is how things are viewed and why we have to put these processes in place to have female businesses vetted into these large organizations. It has just been, I don't know, I kind of sitting here reflecting on my life, Ed, as we're going through this discussion.
Well,
But
we did, you know, when you and I talked about doing this about a month ago, we didn't think of that.
no, we didn't, not at all. But I'll just leave with this thought. And I learned this in college. You probably all know it as professionals, well-read people, book writers, and so forth. But I learned long ago, and it's always stuck with me, that we all judge each other. We don't mean to, we just do. It happens. And in 7 seconds, you judge somebody based on 3 things they can't even control: their race, age, and gender. You can't even control the things people are judging you on. And so we really have to be so cognizant of putting aside what we can, and just work on what we know is the right thing to do, which is the matter at hand in a business situation. We're all human. We're all there to do the best we can. And we have to include everybody to get to the next level. So
thank you. So as we come to a near close, we want everybody to speak up again. So Dr. Pim and Dayani, you've heard a lot here today, and I really thank you for sitting through this and contributing your perspective. And I'd like to give the microphone to you now. So if you could take a couple of minutes and describe your take from this conversation. Believe me, we'd all like to learn from you today.
Thank you very much. It was really learning event for me. I learned a lot from very different perspective and different background, and it was tremendous learning for me. What I have to say is 3 things. Number one, I agree with most what has said about the challenges which we faced through 20th century, about the role of the female and the ladies in the workplace. But what I strongly believe, and I don't have a crystal ball to predict this, but what I have gathered so far, I strongly believe this is ahead of us, that we are facing a big change and a different work environment and different economy ahead of us, which already we are seeing the sign of it, which 2 things is now we are part of it at the moment. There is no time and no place for keeping a limitation of the job. That's mean in future, these 2 elements are going to be essential to shaping the companies and organizations. And today, in many of the organizations I see on the job advertising, that's already been the new word put into the job ads, and that says remote, which it was 5 years ago, it was not up here. Now it's very, very common. Number 2, I think this is going to be happen. It's very controversial and it's very different perspective what I see, what I'm going to say. I think the role of the ladies on the workforce is going to be changed, and it's tied to the different timing. For the many years, the ladies and the guys, the males and females, they were in the same time zone working in the organization. Now, I think in very, very near future, we would see a different timing on the when the women are coming to the work and when they are going to leave, especially with the life expectancy of shifting to 70 and 80s. I think in near future, we would see the family would become more and more important. Therefore, the shift, the male, they would come to work in the early age, and then on the second part, would we see ladies are coming to the work, and they are taking more mature and more active role in leading the companies. this is, and especially with the technology and the digital transformation, I think this is a real change, and it would be very much similar what the human being are faced in the first revolution, industrial revolution. We would see on the fourth and the fifth industrial revolution that, as one of the participants mentioned here, that we need to look at differently to the role of the female and the male in the society and in the workplace. That's mean during the most of the the second half of the 20th century, it was a struggle that comparing male and female, and we wanted to copy these two together. I think in the 21st century we would see a different active role for these two based on their competencies and their characteristics and what they can contribute to the economy and to the society and to the workplace. I think this is what I gained from this, I heard, that we are in the edge of the changing world, especially in the what work going to be defined and who is going to work in different stage of the life cycle. This is, I don't know how the people would agree with me or they would disagree with me, but this is my view. Okay.
Thank you, Payman. Ali Shami, what's your take?
First of all, I just love what I heard the last 6 or 7 perspectives, because it really shifted the event from being really good to being great. Good events or good conferences are those that you feel supported. You're like, oh, okay, you feel the same way. Okay, great. We feel good about what we're talking about, and we walk away with only feeling good. And guess what? We immerse back in the culture that we grew up in. What makes it great is learning something diverse, different. Teams that all think the same way, things move fast, but it's in the wrong direction. While diverse, this is where you have we have a different way of looking at things. And so I think the last discussions with Natalie, Irma, and Dr. Dayani really helped me, shared what I wanted to share. From an immigrant who came from Lebanon, I got the support from the Lebanese friends, but guess who helped me the most? The people that were competing with me, the people who were saying, you do not, it's going to take you a long time to do what we do here. And rightfully so. I mean, I'm not saying, so I got the pushback like not exactly like every female, but there are some similarities. If you want to see someone who's really had it even more difficult, look for an African American female that's even put it even more at it. So my advice from an immigrant is this: don't go at it alone, women. Don't go at it alone. It's going to be a very long ride. It's so much better to get the support from your own. And I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I don't want to meet like us and them. I don't want it to look like that, but it's very important to say what needs to be said, not just what everybody likes, right? It's more important. Don't go at it alone. Get the support from your own folks who have the same experience, but get the help from the others, which is the allies, men. Those are the ones who will share with you the things that, and especially right now, I love mentoring, but you know what? It's the most dangerous thing is mentoring. What do you mentor? Do you mentor the mentee to behave and think the same way, the way you did 20 years ago, 25 years ago, or you are mentoring for today's environment? When I'm mentoring my daughter, I don't mentor her, mentor her for an executive that I worked with that she's had 30 years of an experience. She is going to be surrounded with men who think differently. They're different from the men who were 20 years ago, 30 years ago. So really, I think that looking at what is the ideal way, do not copy us. we are not trying. I mean, I tell my mentees, the first thing I tell my mentee, look, you come to me because you like what I'm doing. Guess what? You're trying to be like me and I'm trying to be somebody else. So do not look at me, just look what is the ideal way. What is the global leadership, not what the female leadership or not what the male leadership. So I'll just stop right there.
Ali, I love you. Thank you. Let's go to Galia. Galia is an immigrant. Why don't you tell us a little bit about your experience, Galia?
Yeah, thank you. This has been such a great discussion. So like Aliyah, I was an immigrant myself. As I relocated 3 times. So as a child, I was born in Jerusalem, and then I moved to Canada, to Montreal. Then from Montreal, moved to New Jersey. Also lived in France. So, it's interesting. I'm in the relocation space. So for me, when it was a very natural fit for me to get into relocation because of, I grew up, my family raised me with a very global mindset. So, it helped being in this industry and dealing with different people of all walks of life and different, from the C-suite to the associate to the manager. It really helped me hone in my skills over time. I will say, for me personally, in my industry, I've always reported to men. My experience has always been working for men. I've never worked for a woman. And my managers were actually very tough. And I will say it was a very, when I look back at it now where I am in my life, it was a very positive experience for me in terms of I've learned valuable lessons from the men that I've worked for because they were tough. Some of the things, and this could be very trivial, but as women, oftentimes we would say, I would go into a meeting, for example, or go into somebody's office and say, sorry, I have some, do you have 5 minutes, right? That was sort of like the stuff that's ingrained in you, or if you're applying for a job, we have, this is statistically, I read this somewhere, that all of the things that are listed in a job description, mostly men will say, okay, great. Even if they know they can't do something, they'll most likely will say, okay, great, I'll apply for it. We have this mindset oftentimes with some women that will look at a job description, okay, if I can't do this, then I can't apply for it. Things that I've learned from my male mentors were, if I wanted to go into a meeting, I'm not going to apologize for it. If I'm walking into somebody's office, I don't need to apologize and say I'm sorry. So that when I've applied for jobs, even if there was an area where I didn't think I had a strong skill in it, I still said, okay, no, but I can do it. I can do this. It doesn't matter if I don't know it. So my experience has been, I've learned a lot over the years. Also, I guess as an immigrant too, what I've learned is that you need to meet people where they are. I'm very open, and that's helped me in my career. I'm open to meeting people. I don't care where they're from, where they've lived, I always find commonality in something when I meet someone that we can connect with. And I think that's a really, really important trait today, is that having that emotional intelligence and cultivating that. And I cultivate that within my children. I teach them to really be open and accepting, and being able to travel the world and sit and have a cup of coffee with someone from Indonesia or something, and you're going to learn something, right? So that's really important. I think that's really important that I've at least applied in my own life. And for Diane's point here about having women in our industry, and it's true, there's a lot of women in relocation. It's primarily women, but what I will challenge, I don't see a lot of women in the C-suite in our industry. I still see a lot of men in the C-suite, and that's okay, but there's work to be done. I think we need more women in the C-suite. But there's, we're making strides. And I think the newer generation, there are more women on the workforce now today. So we're seeing a lot more women coming into the workforce. The family dynamics are changing. And I think Dr. Payman, Diane was saying too, that we're going to see jobs going to people. There's going to be a different dynamics of hours of when people are delivering their work, and that's going to open some doors for female leaders to come. But great conversation, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you. Sophie King, thank you so much. So from your perspective, what's happening with Brexit? Is this going nowhere, or is it going to be good?
Brexit's done, right? So it's happened. We've left the EU. And, you know, most people I know didn't vote for it, but it's happened now and there's no going back from it. And, you know, it is what most people, you know, the vote, they did win the vote. You've got to respect the vote, and we've just got to move on from it, really. It's awful. I mean, it's a nightmare, but, you know, you've got to move on from it, and we've got to look to the future instead of complaining about what happened now several years ago, you know. It's been years we've all been arguing about it, so it's, you know, it's nice to stop arguing about it, actually. You know, there was one other thing I wanted to say, if it's all right, about the whole mentorship thing, like listening to everybody talking about women mentoring other women, which I think is so important, and of course we should do that and help each other. But I also just wanted to point out that I think, given that quite often one is the only woman in the room, it's not only other women that we have to mentor, it's also men. And I wanted to recommend a book, a really good book called Delusions of Gender, which I don't know how many of you guys have read it. It's an excellent book by somebody called Cordelia Fine. And in that, she points out, for example, that that whole thing about men ask for a higher salary and women don't, it's not as simple as women just changing their mindset and walking into the room and demanding the higher salary, because actually the attitude of the men, who are usually the people opening the wallet, is not necessarily congenial to a woman having the temerity to ask for extra money. You know, a man asking in that situation is treated differently from how a woman would be. So I think it's important for us not just to mentor each other and change each other's mindsets. And in fact, the older I get, the more irritated I get with being told to change my mindset. I think my mindset's pretty good, actually, and there are quite a lot of other people whose mindsets I think could do with a little adjustment. So, you know, I just wanted to put that out there.
Okay, Pri, what say you?
So there I agree with Sophie when she says that you know, we hear quite a few times that we have to adjust, and we have to realign our thought process to somebody else's, and I don't always agree with that. Having said that, with you know, a lot of you speaking about women and the role of women in the workplace, I have actually, in the 4 jobs that I've had in my life, for 3 I've had women bosses, and they have been more women in the office than men. And the good thing was, well, I don't know, is it because of Indian culture, or the good thing that came out of it is that the water cooler conversation or the lunch conversation was a place where we could all offload our personal lives. And it was something, and I think that helped us not to get burnt out if there was a lot of work in office or a lot of work in our personal lives. So I know there has been a lot of conversation about mental health, but I believe that this was a support system that we had of the women in our office that helped us to unburden our lives. So that's just my little 2 bits.
Well, thank you so much. I'm really happy to welcome to the microphone Muriel Tulakima. And Muriel, thank you for coming. Please put your mic on and introduce yourself.
I think it's good morning for all of you. I'm based in Perth in Australia. My name is Mirai Tulakima. I'm an entrepreneur, but I'm the CEO of a company called Empty Energy Resources. We are in the resource sector, and we do consulting work here in Australia, in Asia Pacific, and in Africa. But I also do a lot of empowerment work, focusing on women, STEM, and obviously resources and global leadership. internationally. I've wrote a few books as well on oil and gas and also self-development. And I'm always, I spend a lot of time on global leadership and personal leadership. I have a book as well called Stepping into Your Greatness, which is the book that I've used to develop my coaching program. So lots of activity, and I'm really looking forward to the conversation today.
So Muriel, thank you so much for joining us. I was hoping you could. I know the time zones are just crazy because here it's almost 8 a.m. in California. And what time are you? What day are you?
It's almost Tuesday, so 10 minutes before Tuesday. So I'm still awake, and so that's good news.
Well,
So
good.
in 10 minutes, I'm going to be on the 2nd of March. Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's great. I look forward to getting to March 2 also. But so I want to make sure you meet Dr. Payman Dayani, who you see there. He is based in Tehran, Iran, and has been, amongst other things, involved in a very large integrated energy company at the C-suite. So Muriel is a petroleum engineer, right?
That's correct, yes.
As well as a lot of other things. And I've been seeing you on LinkedIn the past few days in different conferences and speaking and doing your own talk show as well.
So my background is in, I'm a petroleum engineer by formation. I've worked for corporate for 20 years, worked for Shell, worked for two major here in Australia, Woodside and Santos, but also worked for a South African company called Sasol. That was my last position as working for corporate, and started MT Energy Resources 6 years ago, consulting for, so with my team, consulting on local projects, but also, like I said, Asia Pacific and Africa. And we, on top of the technical work, we had the local content aspect, which is something that I wrote on. I have a book on that, so that's also part of the consulting that we do.
Good, and I want to make sure you are in touch with following this with Dr. Natalie Forrest, who's originally from Germany, but in the U.S. for many years, and she's very much into empowering everybody, including me. so Muriel, how many women do you teach in your own ways, in your own channels?
So how many women do I teach? Wow, I don't even know, because when I started my empowerment work in parallel of my professional career 10 years ago. So I don't really know how many I have empowered. Didn't really count. But right now, I reach out to a lot of women in different forums in Africa, in the Caribbean as well, and also quite a few in the US as well, and Australia, obviously. So it can be, I don't know, about 100 per year or something. I can't really quantify at this point. But it's a tremendous work that's been done. Obviously, I don't do it alone, but it's really a lot of work that goes into it, and using different platforms.
Good. I want to make sure you are introduced now to Irma Valian, who's in Beirut, and also Galia Peretz in the U.S. And everybody should type and introduce themselves in the chat quickly. And Elena from Romania. And wow, this is a great party. Thank you. So let me just say that this program is live now. It will be edited and put together, finishing touches in the next 24 hours or so by producer Paul. And then we'll launch it worldwide for free access 24/7 for the next year or longer from our site, which connects to our YouTube channel. You'll all get a copy of the link. You can do with it whatever you want. But we're going to be promoting it through our network across social media. Our reader page views, according to Google Analytics, if you can believe all that, since March 1 has been over 80,000 reader page views, and it's about 12,000 since January 1 through yesterday, according to Google Analytics. It's about 70% in US, Mexico, Brazil, Canada, 20% across Europe, 10% Asia Pacific, 1% Middle East, Africa. So I thank you for participating. Irma, thank you. Please come back on the show. Kathy Hine, thanks for hanging in there. And things are good with living abroad. People are moving around again, right?
People are moving around again. Yes, sorry I had to hop off for a bit because I had to speak to somebody from Brown Forman who's going to be on my panel on Thursday. So wow, they haven't stopped relocating people. It's amazing how some industries are just plugging along and other ones have, put a hold on their relocation. So it's very interesting.
So Brown Forman is in the liquor business. So are they going to bring samples?
Virtually, I'm not sure about that.
I was wondering. Okay, so
that would have been good though. But I can understand why they've been so busy. Everybody needed their alcohol during the pandemic.
Yeah. Joining us from Finland, Nana. Thank you so much for coming.
Hi, Ed. Hi, nice to see you. Nice to see you all.
So everybody, this is Nana. She is a photo artist and has a business called the NEMO, N-E-E-M-O, NEMO Method, and it's teaching. Isn't that correct?
It is coaching and facilitation. We do both workshops and we teach other people to use visual facilitation method. So yes, it's also teaching.
Yes, so that means like, well, I'm looking at a picture here behind me. This is Venice, one of the smaller canals, and I happen to have taken that picture and then we stretched it out and put, anyway. So when you look at that, you don't see any pollution, but you don't see any gondolas also. But what you do see right over here, see this white building there, that's a restaurant, which I happen to have eaten in. So I took a picture of. So, but what do you think when you look at a picture of that, And so anyway, that's what Nana is working on is photo art and then description of from cross-cultural, right? So many different ways of looking at the same kind of thing gives so many more meanings and definitions. Right?
Yes, and the pictures, yeah, and they help us to understand how we think, because we all think differently and we see things differently, and that kind of has a very quick way to understand our thinking.
Yeah, okay, thank you so much. Yeah. Okay, why don't you just do, if you can, because we need to bring this to a close in the next 5 minutes. We've been on 2 hours. A lot of people are getting warped out here, but it's really nice to have this new energy. And so tell us quickly about how things are in Finland right now. I know it's evening and it's probably still quite chilly where you are, right?
It's actually right now, it's not chilly. It was very cold 1 week ago, over, I don't know, -25. But now it's plus minus 0. So we have 1 meter of snow, which means until here, and then it's quite warm right now. So it's crazy weather that we are having at the moment, and of course with Corona and everything, it's crazy.
Yeah. Okay. So now, how is your Palo Alto, your Silicon Valley enterprise going? Is that doing okay for you?
Well, it's a really small branch in Palo Alto, and since I haven't been able to be there in 1 year, it was exactly 1 year ago that I was last time in Silicon Valley and in Palo Alto. So of course things go slow, but what we know is that big corporations are very interested in artistic methods like Nemo, but I would need to be there more in order to bring it further. So this is the situation right now, but luckily we have you, Ed, so I can spread the word through this
Great.
kind of talk shows
Great. Thank you.
virtually.
Thank you. Hello, Sandeepta. Welcome. You're able to.
Hi, Ed. Thank
Hi,
you so much.
it's so nice to have you back. And you're coming to us from India.
Yes, thank you so much for inviting me for this great show. I'm so excited to hear everyone's
Yeah.
insights about the agile leadership and women and in this International Women's Day. Let's see what comes from everyone.
Yeah. So Samdipta is involved in a corporate
Excited.
position, but and she has been on our programs before. I want to introduce friends here. Nana Haninen is coming to us from Finland, and she's a photo artist. And Kathy Hine is a partner, managing director of Living Abroad, which is an international enterprise of guidance and information. Galia Peretz is vice president with Weichert Mobility. Marielle Tudakima, and I'm sure I'm not saying that correctly, is in Australia, in Perth, and she's a petroleum engineer and also has a talk show. And Irma Balian is an expert in protocols, teaching diplomats and senior executives how to behave, how to talk to each other. And
Nice to meet you all. Thank you so much.
and Dr. Payman Dayani is coming to us from Tehran in Iran, and he is a senior level with a very large food company. And so, Sandeepta, tell us a little bit about what you're doing in your work today or tomorrow.
Uh, uh, Presently, I am working for DNEG India. There, I work as an immigration and global mobility specialist. And my role involves a wide range of advisory services to the business and globally mobile populations. There are foreign nationals count in my company, and we do assist for their legal registration and everything. In-house legal advisor, you can call me. I proudly say that sometimes. Without a degree, I have that opportunity to be a legal advisor for foreign nationals, employment laws and everything.
Thank you. Sandeepta and everyone else, if you can exchange your LinkedIn page or email in the chat,
yes, sure.
and that everybody could do this. We need to close this in about 5 minutes. Nana, would you like to show us a picture, a favorite of yours, and you could just quickly enlighten us about the Nemo method?
Yes, I will show you this image. How well can you see it?
Not well.
Paul, okay, I will choose another one.
Paul, do you want to enlarge that out of the gallery view?
Maybe you can see this one a bit better.
Yes, we can.
Okay, good. So this image is called Arrogance as Defense, and it talks about that you know, arrogance as a role in us may be a sign of protecting ourselves of something soft or something hurt. And this is an old photograph that I have reused in an artwork. And when we look at the person who is arrogant, we really don't know why this person actually is arrogant. So we don't know what has happened to this person before. So we shouldn't kind of make how you say, judge this person from the first hand without knowing exactly what has happened to this person. So, for example, this is the way that we use art in discussing with people. Of course, I would now ask you a question of how do you see empathy, or what is empathy? I could ask you now, and you could all think how you think about empathy through this kind of photograph and artwork.
Okay.
So Nemo is using, yeah, sorry.
Who wants to jump in here? Galia, what do you think of that face?
You know, that's a very good point that you made, Nana. I think, you know, we assume, you know, if someone is perceived as arrogant, you assume automatically that they have a certain personality. But again, you know, you really don't know someone until you really sit down and start talking with them and exchanging ideas and thoughts. So when I look at this picture, I don't have any preconceived notions of anything. It's part of his face. I don't see his entire face, but I'm intrigued. When I look at it, I'm intrigued.
Thank you. Has someone else something to say about it? Yes, there is a half of face. So the other half of the face is not shown, and that can again tell us something about this person. Yeah.
Yeah, that's why I'm intrigued.
Yeah.
I want to know who that person is.
Yeah,
it's a historical person.
Yeah,
Sorry.
Emma.
Well, I just, well, I have a completely different perspective. I don't know why, but from looking at the eyes, I see that the direction of the eyes are downwards. And that gives me the impression that this person might have sadness and something that is, hello, can you hear me? Hello?
Yes, yes.
That, yeah, because I had an unstable.
Yes, we have heard you.
But now you broke.
Nope. Can't hear. Yeah, okay. Kathy Hein, what do you see in that guy's face?
I think more than what I see in his face, Nana, your explanation about how we jump to conclusions about people is so important in our industry when we talk about cultural differences. And, you know, even Sunday mentioned when she was on that people have these biases. And so this piece in your description makes us think about the person from their perspective. And I think it's so important in our industry to have that same type of mindset when you're dealing with other cultures.
Sandipta, so does this seem interesting to you?
Yes, it is too much interesting. It looks like a leader of some community and all. Let's see what Nena is talking about the picture first. I'm too curious to know what exactly she answered of it.
Okay, Nana, the floor is yours.
Hi.
Yes, well, this is the way how we use art in when we have workshops through photographic art in corporations or any organizations within teams, so that we kind of put the artwork on display, and then we ask everybody, how do you see this? What do you see in this photograph? Or we have a specific question like, look at this photograph, and where is empathy in this photograph, or what do you think of empathy? And then we go around the whole team, and everybody can say their thinking and their thoughts and their feelings about it. And this is how we learn how we actually see things. We go very photographs are a very quick way to go deep in, like dig very deep into our own thinking and emotions also, and the roles that we have, they kind of lower down, and we start to be more who we really are, honest ourselves, which is very important in a real communication and dialogue with each other, that we are truly ourselves. So
Thank
this is
you.
what Nemo method is about.
Yeah. Muriel, what do you think of that picture?
Oh, just difficult. I mean, for me, is the picture of a leader. I mean, I see leadership, but very strong leadership, even authoritarian type of leadership. When I see the face, and whew, that's really all I see. Really, this strict, image of somebody who is a leader, but really with a strong, strong power. And what else can we say? And it looks like he's reflecting on something. So, reflecting on a very difficult problem or anything. So, what else do you have?
So what I see in the gentleman's appearance there, yeah, I agree with you, Muriel, that he's an authoritarian, meticulously groomed executive presence. But I'm real interested, Nana. Is that a Northern European guy or a Southern European guy?
I assume it's a Northern
mixture.
European guy. It's a very old photograph that I have bought from an auction house. So I actually don't know who this person is, but it's over 100 years old picture.
So it's interesting that he has long hair.
Yes.
Brushed over the ear kind of thing, because it's unusual. Because that could be taken like yesterday also.
Yeah, and all this beard and everything, that's very fashionable.
Right.
But I wanted to show another picture beside this one, because if we kind of say that this is old-fashioned leadership, or how you say, strong, hard leadership, then what kind of a leadership could this other photograph symbolize? What kind of leadership could this symbolize?
So, Payman, what do you think of that? What looks like a young boy, or maybe a 12-year-old?
I think this is a different perspective. Number one, it's as you mentioned, it's a young, and it's on a very comfort dress. It's aiming something, and it's a very courageous. I see this point, and he is at his comfort, and the way he doesn't have a apparently he doesn't have his shoes on. Maybe he has his slippers on because there's no socks, and I assume that's no shoes. And it's in a garden. It's a free spritz. It's a freedom, and it's looking towards height or star, or aiming something high. These are the point I can take from this picture.
Thank you. Maybe this is more like a leadership that we should provide to people, that they actually can have this kind of position as staff and as employees, than the previous picture that you saw of our artwork. But this work is called Necessity of Growing Up, which talks about that we actually all have to grow up all the time. We have to, be better versions of ourselves and learn about ourselves all the time more. But this child also has this curiosity and courage of growing up, and we should have this childlike mind, us. That's also needed in innovation and in all kind of situation in art, but also in corporate world, the creativity that children have.
Thank you so much. Thank you all for being on the show. It is my pleasure and my honor to have you, and I welcome you all back to another group teleconference, but more so a one-on-one, where we could have not a webinar, but a conversation based upon very specific things for about 30 minutes. Total one-on-one focus. And I'll get back to you with invitations about all that. And then we could do a deep dive on photo art and about Muriel, what you're mentoring, and Sandeepta about your specialty. I thank you very much for being on our program again. Please come back. Kathy, have a good FEM meeting in New York. When is that? That's Thursday?
It's Thursday, 11 to 12 Eastern Standard Time.
Right, and it's free?
It's free.
Yeah, okay. And so how do I get on it?
You can go to the Forum for Expatriate Management site and look under the New York City chapter, and there's a link there. And also it will be posted on LinkedIn under my profile. So
okay, great.
Feel free to connect and join us.
Great. Nana, thank you so much. I know it's late in your evening. Sandeepta, thank you. And Muriel, thank you, and pleasant dreams tonight.
Thank you.
So the payment, I know it's dinner time for you, and thank you very much, my friend, and please come back.
Thank you very much. It was
Thank you everybody very much. It was
Great.
really nice to meet you all.
It's been my honor to have you on Global TV Talk Show. So let's all come back again and be well and be safe.
Yeah. You too. Take care.
Thanks.
Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Thank you for joining us in the meeting room at Global TV Talk Show.
Have a wonderful day, and stay safe.